Talk.
Another episode of Plug Talk Podcast. We got myself, AJ Rose. We got producer, journalist, music extraordinaire, hip hop historian like LeBron.
I don't deserve that title.
Obviously, we got man like Nate Fisher in the building.
What's going on?
For anyone that's missed it, Wiley basically put out a Twitter video. It's about 3 minutes long, and he's basically taking aim at Skepta and Dizzee Rascal. He was saying how he's not happy with Skepta because Skepta made a track with Dizzee called Money Right. He put out a video obviously showcasing some of his thoughts in true Wiley fashion, so he didn't really hold back with nothing. With that whole thing, Money Right, the song, the audio to the song, it came out, I think 2 or 3 weeks before this social media video came from Wiley. Now, we don't know when Wiley recorded that video, but this is just an assumption, but someone like Wiley, I don't think he'd do a little rant, leave it in his phone for 2 weeks and then release it at optimum time. He seems like the type of guy that would do it, post it up straight away, no questions, innit? So let's just assume that the day that he posted the video was the day he recorded it. Dizzee and Skepta put out a song a couple weeks back, and now Wiley is taking issue with it because the video for Money Right, it came out a few days after Wiley's outburst, innit? So what do you think happened that made Wiley want to address that song there and then?
I don't know if he was addressing the song per se. He was just addressing the whole situation, and obviously we don't know what happened behind closed doors because to make Wiley feel the way that he did. But obviously it was a very passionate response to whatever situation it is, and like you said, it wasn't just with the song. It was because he mentioned other things like Jammer. He mentioned Jammer in this rant about a story involving someone flipping tables.
There's probably some stuff going on behind closed doors that that fuels all of these actions. But as fans or as people that are just consuming it, we can only go off. JME last year did a track with Daneo, which also featured Dizzee, that song, Man I Wear Black. What's the difference between Skepta featuring on a song with Dizzee, which was on Dizzee's project, versus JME featuring as a guest artist on a song with Dizzee, which was on Daneo's project?
If it's Daneo's song, he can get whoever he wants on that song, and obviously JME's not going to be like, oh, I can't work on your song because it's a Dizzee tune, whatever. So I think that's one difference. And also, like, during this rant, Wiley's jumped to the defense of JME, accusing Skepta of telling him not to release any music, and then snaking him essentially by releasing music himself. So, but obviously, again, he's something he's just touched on, and there's obviously a deeper situation that we don't understand at this point. So it's all a bit mad.
You know that point where he was like, you told JME not to release, so you can release your tune, you're a snake or whatever. But like, unless, again, yeah, you don't really know what their plans are unless you're part of that inner circle, yeah. But it doesn't strike me as something that, like, I can see JME taking that role because he's humble and being like, you know what, Skep, like, cool, the focus can be on you, I'll hold back. I feel like if JME did that, it seems like something he'd agree to with an open mind rather than it being a reluctant thing where he's like, oh, well, I've got bangers, I want to release them, but you're the big boss or you've spoken now. I feel like he'd be on board with that idea if it did go down like that.
JME's got a big enough core fan base to like wait as long as he needs to or wants to before releasing it, and then once he's ready to release, there'll still be people there willing to listen and waiting on him to drop. So I don't think that's even an issue in terms of like, oh, he needs to get something out now or he's going to become irrelevant, because JME is a staple in the grime scene and has been for a long time. So I don't think that's really an issue.
Yeah, I can't, like with JME, it's like he's got to a point where he doesn't really, like, obviously he can't just go quiet for like 10, 15 years, but he can take whatever kind of break he wants, knowing that he's got fans there that are waiting. Like my opinion is, I don't think that Wiley mentioned Godfather 3 as a form of promo, but I feel like the mention of it allows people to ask the question of, did you just do all of this to let us know that you got an album coming? Wiley seems like someone that just in that moment, whatever's on his mind, he's just like, it seemed more of a expression of his, you know what I mean? Just a demonstration of what he's really thinking at that moment rather than a promo thing. It's not like this happened yesterday and this is like brand new, yeah? But I felt like there must have been pent up and built up frustration within Wiley around this Dizzy situation, because when he released his book a little while back, Wiley, there's a whole chapter in there dedicated to Dizzy where he ends the chapter by basically saying, Dizzy, I accept responsibility for what happened that night. I just wish we could move on. But elsewhere in the book, there's also comments about how Wiley was the one that introduced Dizzy Rascal to a man called Nick Denton. And in the book, you get the message and the feeling that if Dizzy never met this Nick guy, Dizzy wouldn't have had as much commercial success. Wiley's saying, I helped Dizzy get that. I connected Dizzy to this man that helped Dizzy make so much money. I've tried to bless the situation with Dizzy. I've publicly commented that, you know what I mean, I want to bless this. I accept responsibility. So maybe there's been more things going on that we don't know about. And he's just reached a point where he's like, you know what, forget this. Like, I've tried everything I can. It's been years. I've tried to bless it. I've publicly commented. I don't know what he's done in private, but maybe he's privately commented. And maybe he's just fed up. But then again, this comes back to the original issue of some people feel like, oh, it's been 15 years, Dizzy should stop holding grudges. But then Dizzy almost lost his life on that night. So do you ever really forget something like that? Like, does 15 years mean you can just forget the fact that something happened where you could have nearly died from?
It's obviously clear to everyone that these two aren't gonna get along. There's not gonna be a situation where they're gonna be cool, which is fair enough, isn't it? Each to their own. You know, everyone, you can't tell someone how to feel. So with that being the case, like this outburst, like obviously you made points saying that, you know, it's been X amount of time and Wiley's tried to bless it, whatever. But the fact that Wiley's tried to bless it is almost an admission of guilt that he's feeling in the situation. And maybe that's just made Dizzy feel even more so that it was his fault. And saying, oh, regardless, like, you're trying to bless it because you know it was your fault, or there's more you could have done. I don't want to say it was his fault, but there's more he could have done in that situation. So then that's just like doubled down on the way he was feeling before, you know what I mean?
I can't see Skepta addressing this other than in some kind of, maybe a cryptic kind of bar where it's like, oh, them man chat about me, but we're just here winning, or something like that.
I don't think Dizzy Rascal will mention him in any sense, other than like definitely not by name, because he done a recent interview with Tim Westwood. And he was speaking about like his whole career, and there were points where he was definitely like 100% referencing Wiley, without saying his name. Like for example, Tim Westwood was talking about you know, his Boy in the Corner and Showtime, and Dizzy's response was like, he's a pioneer in this thing, and like, certain people get credit for being pioneers, but he's the real pioneer because he like produced all but like maybe one of the tunes on Boy in the Corner, and you know, gave that grime, was at the forefront of that grime sound, and examples like that. And obviously, if he wanted to say Wiley's name, he could have said it, but he's obviously choosing not to say his name and give him that promotion, I suppose, or, you know. So I don't think Dizzy will say anything. Skepta, maybe some, like you say, some cryptic lines, but obviously Skepta doesn't really say much anyway. Other than his, you know, recently his few featured verses here and there, and his, you know, the sort of lines that he says, like you say, they could be aimed at a number of people, or just aimed in general to people who discredit him or discount him in any way. So I don't think anything by name will be said publicly by either, to be honest.
Grime's roots is rooted in competition. If you think about it, clashing, barring, who can get the most time at a radio set. If your bars are dead, you don't get more time. Like its roots come from a competitive nature. Like there's so much competition that helped make like think of all the iconic clashes from back in the day. That did so much. Like we look back on them now, there's all these classic lines and bars and that. But now I feel like that sense of competitive spirit, if you like, is being lost.
Because you don't have to do sets anymore to get popular. Like to get your name out there. You can do your own thing and go on YouTube or on SoundCloud or whatever and create a fan base, innit? But obviously way back when Wiley and Dizzee were pals, you know, that's all you had. You had to go on pirate radio. You had to prove that you were sit in those environments, in those competitive environments that you were talking about. But these days you don't have to do that. So that's why I feel like that little bit of edge is lost, because everyone can stunt like that like they're the best, without actually having to prove it.
This is American, but when Kendrick said that control verse, when Kendrick did that control verse where he was like, I'm homeboys with all these rappers, but this is hip hop, so these lot should know what time it is. In so many ways, Grime has that side to it as well, where it's like, we're all homeboys, but I'm still trying to be the best, so you lot should know what time it is. And there ain't really that sense of competition.
Obviously, this whole resurgence of the genres and like being affected by people being able to make money of it has steered it away from that rawness. And obviously, if you're saying, oh, you can make a tune and make X amount of money, or you can do a clash and just do it for the culture, so to speak. Obviously, nine people out of 10 are going to do a tune for the money, innit? And so, as much as I understand that, like you say, for the fans of the genre, you do miss that aspect. But times have changed, and got to roll with the times, unfortunately.
It feels like in the UK, people aren't trying to be the best lyricist anymore. They're not trying to be the best rapper anymore or the best MC anymore. They're simply just trying to be profitable and make money. And do you know what, yeah? Let me ask you, like, can you blame an artist for making that decision and saying, you know what, maybe once I wanted to have the hardest bars, maybe once I wanted critical acclaim, but now I've realised that I can make hella money by not having that competitive edge to me, so now I do this whole thing over here. Can you really blame an artist for essentially following things that are going to make the money? Because at the end of the day, artists aren't here to just, they're not public servants, innit? They got to make money.
I don't think you can blame the artist. I think you've got to blame the industry if you really want to get to the crux of the problem. Because if there weren't opportunities for bad songs or limited songs, I don't want to call it a song bad, but limited songs to make lots of money, then people wouldn't be so like focused on doing that and just think, oh, let me just make one hit, and then, you know, regardless of how it sounds like musically, I can just get there, get some P's, and then done with it, innit? And build off that. So if there weren't these opportunities provided by the industry to make a quick buck, then people wouldn't be looking to do that.
If Wiley had something to say, if you want to say this 15 years ago, it wouldn't have been a Twitter video. He would have just made a dub, innit?
Yeah.
And likely
he would have gone on radio, said that rant at the beginning, and then had some bars.
Exactly. And then probably, because we're back in that era now, I reckon one of Dizzee or Skepta would have replied in some way.
You have no other option. Back in that day when Grime was first like emerging, that was the only form of communication. If you're coming on the radio, you weren't coming on to just talk. You were coming on like the Logan Salmon show or Tim Westwood show. You were coming to spit, and you were coming to do a set, or any of the pirate radios. Yeah, you weren't coming to talk and chat like you had anything to say other than the bars you were going to spray. You know what I mean? Definitely, that would have been the only response. And if they didn't say nothing, then they're done, innit? They're done. Oh, he didn't say nothing. He just got slewed on this war dub, and you didn't respond. Then you're done, innit? No one was to hear from him after a certain amount of period if you haven't come back with a response. But that was then. This is now.
Yeah, that's a point actually. But then, like, if that happened, if Wiley made an Insta video or a little radio speech back then, yeah, it wouldn't have, like, that's true. What you said of back then, like what Grime came up off is, if you don't reply, you're done out here because your name's everything. But now, your name is there's a lot more protection around your name.
Like your brand.
There's a lot more, like, you can take certain hits and not feel the need to actively reply. You can look at an artist and be like, you know what, you've only got 4K followers, I can't be entertaining this. But back in the day, you didn't really have a medium to sit there and be like, you're significant. All you knew was their bars, innit? Yeah. You might know if they're big on road, but it was their bars did the talking. Now it's like followers, brand deals, partnerships, retweets.
If this was 2003, next Sidewinder would be Wiley, Dizzy, Skepta going back and forth, and it would have been a mad thing. They would have sold out in seconds. But
final question there. Do you think there's ever a chance that Wiley and Dizzy ever bless it? And when let me change the question. Yeah? Do you think there's ever a chance that Wiley and Dizzy ever come together on the same track? And hear my reasoning here. Yeah,
you're gonna have to.
I know that there's the beast, like, it's deep, innit? It's long standing. A lot's happened there, but as money men, they must know, like, surely I reckon, yeah, at some point, even a man like Dizzy who keeps himself to himself, there must have been some thought at some point in this 15-year period, like, rah, if me and this guy just make amends, get in the studio and make a mad banger, we'll absolutely shut it down like never before. Do you think there's ever a chance that we could see that moment where Wiley and Dizzy feature on the same track?
I think if that moment was going to occur, it would have occurred in the last, like, 3-4 years when Grime re-emerged as a force in the UK, you know what I'm saying? And, like, ironically, it would have been someone like Skepta to be the middleman, because obviously he's cool with Wiley and evidently he's cool with Dizzy, so he would have been the middleman. But obviously this situation has proved that not even someone who is cool on both sides can bring them together, because obviously Wiley feels like he's being disloyal to his side. So no, unfortunately no. So all you got to do is just hold on to the tracks and sets that we do have with them two on there, because they are going to become Grime artifacts in now and in the years to come, because they're going to be moments that we're never going to have the opportunity to experience again. So, but it is unfortunate, but you can understandable at the same time how it's all turned out.